Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Joe. Welcome back to SNES is Life, and this is Recap Show episode number 88. We've done 88 of these now. This episode covering Wildsnake, Mortal Kombat 2, King Arthur's World Heroes 2, and Brett Hill Hockey 1995. Let's get started. Wildsnake is another one of these games that was endorsed by Alexei Petnigov, or however you pronounce his name. It's the guy that invented Tetris, basically. This is actually the second game in this series I've seen where the box art is red. It's got Alexi's picture in the corner. It's like, recommended by, not created, not developed, not assisted, just recommended by. The first one was called Breakthrough, and it was another puzzle game. This one's a puzzle game. It's really, actually, this one's kind of interesting. So these snakes come down. You can move them left or right. When they hit the ground, they'll crawl along and down into crevices, and then if you match color snakes, they explode. It's very interesting, but just didn't really bring the heat, I guess. So all of the game is this. This is the game right here. There are some different like board shapes, like a triangle. There's one that's like an hourglass or an X. But it is just snakes coming down and blowing up snakes. I think the problem this game has is the music was mediocre. It was not particularly exciting. Tetris music's fire. It just always has been. Same with Dr. Mario. And then Dr. Mario and Tetris allow you to really build up, and aim for Tetrises and big combos and things. And the snake game, I guess you could do that, but you'd have to be really good at arrangement, because when these snakes hit the ground, they just slither. And so they're going to fill in spaces and gaps, and you can't leave a hole like you do in Tetris to throw that one big straight block in. The movement was fine. Everything seemed tuned well. There wasn't lag or slow up. There were a couple special snakes, like that one right there. He was, when you hit a color, he kills all of that color that's on the screen. I don't know. It wasn't awful. It was a decent puzzle game, but it is not the puzzle game I would choose. On the Super Nintendo, I would 100% get the Tetris Dr. Mario combo cartridge, or play Yoshi's Cookie. Amazing games. This one, it was very ho-hum, average road, middle of the road, decent, but I wouldn't play it again. So it got a thumbs down. Next up, Mortal Kombat 2. It is Mortal Kombat. This is the one that I was most familiar with. We had this as a kid. Played the ever-loving hell out of it. It's Mortal Kombat. It's a fighting game. And it is a stiff fighting game. Now, Mortal Kombat 1 was even worse. And this one is only slightly better. The graphics are a little better. The shading's a little better. More characters, different moves. I felt like the finishing moves in Mortal Kombat 2 were a lot easier to pull off than in 1, which is nice. This one also introduced the friendships and the babalities, things like that. But it's still really, this game, I think, just survives off of the gruesome fatalities is the only reason to play this game. As a fighting game, I don't particularly care for it. It's okay, and a lot of people love it, and I can understand why. But if I was going to play a fighting game, and I'm going to contradict myself in a second here, I would play Street Fighter 2. Mortal Kombat, I would play, but only for, being like, hey, let's mess around and play with fatalities and watch brains explode everywhere. So I give it a thumbs down, just because I know Mortal Kombat 3 is coming. It's a little more refined and a little bit better even than Mortal Kombat 2. And so I probably will give Mortal Kombat 3 a thumbs up, because it's the last one, I think, on the Super Nintendo. But for Mortal Kombat 2, I'm going to give it a thumbs down. And you'll hear me be dumb about that in a minute. Anyway, King Arthur's World. This was an interesting game. It's very Lemmings-like. It is mouse compatible. So you are in control of King Arthur's army. You select soldiers to come out. They walk across the screen. In this case, I built a catapult. You get archers. You can play this game with a controller, but man, was it obviously designed for a mouse. And even the mouse design is a little clunky. I don't feel like you get enough of a screen view. It's too zoomed in to make it particularly good it doesn't feel good to control it, you know. The graphics, while colorful and decent, are very rudimentary and kind of blocky looking. There's not a lot of definition in the little guys, and I guess you got that with Lemmings too. The music was okay, like very forgettable, just, you know, chiptune. And then the gameplay was not. I feel like the gameplay itself, like the moves and the characters and stuff, they work well, and I think the levels were kind of interesting. I think this game really just suffers from control. Like I said, it was made for the mouse, and the mouse works, but it's still not good. Like, it's slow, it's clumsy. Trying to get your cursor over your guy specifically to be like, do this, was pretty difficult. There are enemies in this, unlike Lemmings, which you were generally dealing with static objects coming at you, or maybe things dripping off ceilings. This one, actual enemies like come at you, and so it's a little bit harder to defend against those when your mouse doesn't want to cooperate on clicking on things. So it's more difficult. I saw this game and I really thought, oh, this must be a port from like Amiga or Commodore or something. And no, this game only existed for the Super Nintendo, which is really interesting in a collection standpoint. And I think I would play Lemmings. I don't think I would play Lemmings over this. I love the original Lemmings. But it's definitely an interesting game. I just don't think it's one that's worth the effort to play. You know, having to use the clunky mouse and try and get the cursors to work. It's intriguing. It had a lot of neat ideas in there, but I think it wasn't polished in the control section. Like, if they'd zoomed the screen out a little more so you could see more space and made the controls a little more intuitive, I think it would have been an okay game. But as it is, I gave it a thumbs down. Sorry. Next up, World Heroes 2. This is where I get real funny about. So Mortal Kombat 2, I said, was stiff and simple. And, you know, Street Fighter 2 is a better game because all its controls and 6 different buttons and blah, 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 blah. World Heroes 2 has like a punch and a kick. And then, you know, Street Fighter-esque special moves. But the game is bright and colorful. The sprites look decent. The music's okay. Most importantly, the gameplay is fun. And that is a huge, huge deal. Like, it doesn't have to be... Like, I give Mortal Kombat shit for not being as cool as Street Fighter or as smooth as Street Fighter. And this, or, you know, as... This game is really not as good as Street Fighter either, but I give it a thumbs up because it's actually fun to play. And as a 2-player fighting game, I would actually choose to play this. Like, it's just hilarious. I love Rasputin here, and the crazy moves he gets. It is very Street Fighter ripoff. Like, there's a lot of characters in here that you're just like, oh, that's Dalsim, and that's Blanca, and that's M. Bison, and blah, blah, blah. So there's that. But World Heroes 1 I gave a thumbs up to as well, because that game, it just played fast and was enjoyable. It was actually good to control and felt nice. It didn't feel stiff. Like, Mortal Kombat just feels stiff. And so I'm going to give World Heroes 2 a thumbs up over Mortal Kombat. And there's no getting around it. So, yeah, it's a good game. Go look up World Heroes 2. I liked it a lot. Finally, Brett Hull Hockey 1995. It's a yearly sports franchise game. You know, I looked back at Brett Hull Hockey. This one, the graphics are improved a little bit. The crowd looks better. Brett Hull Hockey 1 had more of like an overhead view almost. I mean, it was still slanted, but this one slanted a lot. And so the scaling, while they try to do their best at scaling the sprites, It's just, they use that mode 7 to try and create that depth, and it just isn't great. It makes it very difficult to kind of figure out where things are and who's moving where. The player movement felt very slow. It's a sports game without music. The controls were okay. Like, the checks and the shooting and the movement felt all right. It just felt slow. And the graphics were okay. It was an okay sports game. I gave it a thumbs down. I don't think I've given it. I mean, I think we've only played like 3 hockey games, maybe 4, and none of them have really like wowed me. I think the closest we got was one that Joey and I played years ago at the beginning of the show, where it was very when you got into like the sprites were huge, like they were huge sprites, and when you got in a fight, it was like a boxing game almost. You could like high punch and low punch and like block. And I doubt that I gave it a thumbs up either, because if I remember, that game did not play well, but at least it was kind of funny in that way. It's a hockey game. It's sports. I don't think it's particularly interesting. It does have seasonal play. It does have, I guess, NHL teams in it. I like the scoreboard at the top there. You take a big hit and it's, oh, that's got to hurt, and it hits you with a 20-ton weight. And the game played fast. 5-minute periods really didn't last 5 minutes. They probably actually lasted 3. It's fun enough. If you like hockey, you'd probably give it a shot, but I didn't care for it. That's a thumbs down. So I'm only got 1 thumbs up in this set of 5 games, and that's back to World Heroes 2. What are you going to do? But anyway, guys, I appreciate everybody who's watching this. Recap 88. Coming up in Recap 89 to look forward to, we got Super Punch-Out. That's going to be a solid choice. Adventures of Yogi Bear. There's a game called Brain Lord in there, which I've heard that name, but I don't really know it. Spider-Man and Venom Carnage. That'll be a solid beat 'em up. So there should be a couple decent games at least coming up in the next set. But that's it. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you later. Have a good one. Thanks for watching us. Stay tuned for, more stuff.